it still would be where it is today. That wouldn't change.
Do you have the picture of the stone that we found on Taylor's Island?
The picture of what?
The stone.
The stone that you have? Somewhere, Pat. I don't know where I'd find it.
Because it looks like those other marker stones.
It's on the Grace Foundation.
Yeah.
So it is
Yeah.
there.
Oh, it's on the Grace Foundation site.
Yeah.
I could go there.
And that would have been where the lower line went across.
It's hard to say. It's not, if you look at the, let's go back here. I can't zoom on this. But if you move, like, when you're on, I move this line around, and you can move it to about where where it would have gone past the brick church and still end up on James Island. It's pretty darn close to where it was. And like I said, there's no real, there's no record of any markers out here, and whether that was put in later on the Transpeninsular Line, I wouldn't know. But it wouldn't have been put in by the original surveyors. They just used white painted posts.
You know, you're talking about finding a survey to find that point on James Isle. With today's satellites and stuff, it ought not be much trouble to survey that.
Yeah, but there's no reference point to go by. I mean, there's nothing in those, in the original surveyor's notes saying, you know, latitude and longitude, here's where it was. Like the corner of Delaware, you can say, you can go to Mason and Dixon's journal, and they'll tell you, here's where it is. But there's nothing like that for this, or any of their points.
I don't know, I don't remember what I read in the Watson journals. The Watsons would have been the one done that, Watson and Parsons.
Yeah, I have the, well, I'll show you the Facebook page. Find that.
We've got a story, we have to stick with it.
Yeah.
Is it on your farm,
Yeah.
Pat? Is it on your farm? The stone?
It is now. It's moved to my farm.
It was moved to your farm.
Because the road people were cutting grass all the time on the side where it was, and they were beating it up so bad that I moved it back to the farm, and it's there at the farm. It's about this big square and got a hole in the top. And it looks like it could have been a marker, but it's right near where the brick church, between the brick church and the Lane Color Church, right on the side of the road is where it was.
Well, this is the Facebook page I made. You can see there's 2 members, me and my friend that I had look at it for me. But if you go, and everything I talked about tonight, there's a file, recent files, there's a files section. I have all the notes that I used, the pictures that I posted.
We could put that, reference that on the Grace Foundation website if you like. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, well, I just made this.
Yeah. Oh,
And I have a, this is an invitation only to start with by me to you, and I need your email to do that. You can't like look this up and join it. I don't want to deal with the madness of Facebook, so I'm keeping this as closed as I can. And then from there, once you join it, I have a list with email addresses if you haven't put yours on it yet.
The list is going around.
It's gone around, okay.
I don't know where it ended up, but that's if you want to be on this list.
Yeah,
Put your
put
email
that
in
on there and I'll send you an invitation through email. And then once you join the group, then you can invite your friends through that. So then you can invite, you know, hopefully it'll grow some. And then there's room to add to it, and things like that. This is the markers I did. That's all on here. My introduction, just things I talked about, a little more detail, and what the page is about, you know. And then I added some other things. There's this is a pretty good film. It goes into the tangent line, and then the map that I had here. This is a fellow named Mark Knopfler and James Taylor do a song about Mason and Dixon called Sailing to Philadelphia. It's a nice song. This was an article I found years ago about the BBC, from the BBC, about the men who drew the Mason-Dixon line. Baltimore, just the arguments over the border. Oh, sir, this is Watson's journal here. You can click right on that.
I don't know what it said anything about it. It's been probably 8 or 10 years since I read it.
Yeah,
And I've got senile since then.
well, this is it. So if you
Yeah.
wanna look at it, it'll be on here. If you wanna reread it, it's like,
There's 44 pages, I remember that.
you what?
There was 44 pages of it.
Oh, what's it up here? It says, well, it says 22, but depends on which way it was written and what book you
Yeah.
were looking at. But anyway, that's on here. This is the original surveyors from the 1750, 1751 survey. And it's very vague. It doesn't give a lot.
Have you done anything with the Mason-Dixon markers going north?
Do I have anything on that?
Have you done any exploration on it?
No, no, I haven't done the,
Well,
I
part of the
haven't,
reason I came here tonight is, I think there's 2 stones in Dorchester County
should be.
that you should be
Should-
ashamed of.
Not should, no, not
You
Mason.
should be ashamed of. I mean, me and a buddy went all the way across, we got interested in this several years ago, and we went up to the 20-mile marker.
Mhm.
And marker number 16 is it. Marker number 15 is along the side of the road, just by Oak Grove Church. Is that in Dorchester County?
I'm not sure.
Oak Grove Church? It might be,
That's
I
on
think it
Golden
is.
Hill.
huh?
Isn't that the church on Golden Hill Road?
I don't know.
Oak Hill?
I thought it was called, I thought the road was called, Oak Grove, but anyway.
I've
there-
seen that,
There's a
but I
marker
can't
on the
remember
left-hand
where.
side of the road there. It's the marker number 15, I think.
This is on the tangent line.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's go
No,
north.
it's on the north line, it's on the Mason-Dixon line.
Yeah, Mason, that's the
Okay.
tangent line
All
going
right,
from
the
middle
next
point up.
marker is around the corner. If you go left and come around, cross the branch,
Mhm.
there's a great big field there. And about 500 feet into that field is marker number 16 laying on its side, and it's been hit with a disc and this, that, and the other, just laying there.
Huh,
And somebody ought to do something about it.
yeah,
And then the next marker, marker number 17, is in a field, last time I seen it, was in a cornfield, under a picket irrigation system, and they were just farming around it. There needs some kind of protection putting on. I
Yeah.
think both of them are in Dorchester County.
I don't know, I couldn't answer that.
I'm giving you a challenge
Yeah,
there.
I'll have to
Look
look
into
at that. Let's see, what else I got here, I think there's a, let's see. Somewhere in here, Transpeninsular Line, there's the map from the Grace Foundation.
That
And then
map,
I
I
have
think is,
the-
I think that is, as vague as it looks, I think if they had 3 days on Taylor's Island, and you picture the way Taylor's Island would be back in the mid-1700s,
Yeah,
the way it is, if you ever walk through the woods now, that's pretty much an amazing accomplishment for them, for
Yeah.
3 days, with
Yeah.
no drones or anything, just walking through the woods,
yeah,
and coming up with that map. I just think it's an amazing map.
yeah, well, it said it took them,
Absolutely.
And the mosquitoes.
yeah, and they were all, the surveyors were constantly being watched by the native people. The Indians were always curious what they were doing and what they were up to, and, they were cutting down large pieces of woods and whatever in order to keep a clear sight, for miles,
Well,
wherever
they
there were
quit
woods.
somewhere up western Maryland because the Indians said, no more.
Yeah,
They wouldn't let them go any farther. They went back and finished that years later.
yeah, the Indians, they did stop them. The one group of surveyors, they took the guy's compass, so that was the end of that.
Well, have you ever heard anything about the mystery stones around Marletta Springs?
Mm-hmm. No.
Well, as I told you, there was 20 stones come across Twilford's Wharf, Muddy Hook Creek, I guess, and, by Sharptown. They used 6 of them. And the other 14 just laid there somewhere. And now we can find 10 of them. They're in somebody's backyard, they're in some woods somewhere. There's 10 of them still, we know where they're at, the others, right, we don't know. And we call them mystery stones, and the surveyors got all rambunctious. They thought they were witness stones to the middle mark, but it makes no sense the way they're done.
Huh, that's interesting.
That,
So there
what
was
I,
some-
my
there was some-
theory on it is, they just left them there. And I got an answer to that question on the last page of that, Mason's journal. There's a letter there from England to Mason saying, I guess you're not gonna do the Transpeninsular Line. They contracted to do the peninsula within Big Stones. They didn't do it. Like they had enough. I think they only got $75,000 doing the whole thing, which was the big money then, I'm sure. Anyway, those stones are just scattered around there. Nobody knows why, but I think it's because they were left there to go to Fenwick with. There weren't enough of them. They also left another 100 stones somewhere out there around Allegheny County in the woods. Now that was in 1760 something, whatever
Yeah.
years were.
Yeah.
About 1900, they went looking for them, gonna put them up the rest of the way out. They found most of them. They were people's front step, they were under the barn, they were under this, they were foundations for that. They were everywhere in a radius.
But people knew where they were.
They had, made use of them, is what it mattered to. They helped herself with them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some nice stone from England.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, here's, the Mason and Dixon's journal's in here, the whole, this is in its entirety. So, you can find that, you know, all this will be easy to
That
find.
book looks like that.
It's valuable research.
That's the
It
book.
is.
They were good at making.
That's the journal of Mason and Dixon there?
Yeah.
Okay, you have a copy of
I
it.
got a copy of it.
Okay.
Bryce Stump bought me a copy of it.
Well, that would be the same thing as this then, right?
Yeah.
I believe, yeah.
So what about the journal of the surveyors who did the Transpeninsular?
That's here too. I
That-
thought-
that's
yeah,
there.
that
See,
was,
I never
you
knew
know,
that was online. We went and visited the real journal.
Yeah, that was this,
I think we wore gloves. We wore gloves to turn the pages.
Yeah, they made us.
John Watson's journal. Yeah, I saw it.
And I'm sure I've seen some of your things. You got this book put out by, the Department of Commerce.
Is that the 1972 book?
Yeah,
Okay.
it shows you where everything's at.
Yeah, where everything was, where it was moved to, yeah.
What got me interested in this, I had an uncle that died, the house he was in, my grandfather lived in, my great-grandfather lived in. And Marshall's auction emptied the house out. And there was a folder with some deeds, and they said there was a map in there. And I intended on buying, and I bought it. Well, we got home and we opened the map up, what they call a map. This is a survey done in 1866. This is the copy, I got the original. From the middle point back to Delaware, 5 miles long, shows you where the stones, shows you where the people lived, their names on there, and my great-grandfather's house is on there, James Adkins.
Wow.
That's what got me started looking up this stuff.
And that's going north.
It's going, no,
East, this is the corner, this is the middle point right here.
it was done in
Yeah,
1866.
this is the tangent line.
Yeah.
This goes straight across,
To-
this would end up at Fenwick.
It would end up at Doug. I carried this to the Maryland archives, the Delaware archives, and everywhere else. The guy in the Delaware archive says, there should be another 6 sheets of this going this way, till he got to Fenwick. And he was said the last, because I was trying to figure out who drew it, I had a hint of who drew it. He said the last sheet would have the surveyors on it, that drew it. But I had an uncle that lived, well, actually I live on one of his properties, a great uncle, that was a surveyor for Worcester County, and when they formed Wycomico County, the books say he helped survey the line for Wycomico. Well, the line was already there, I don't know why they surveyed it. But none of them places has got this, and everybody wants to get it in their copy machine.
Wow.
Every one of them.
Well, if you join this Facebook thing, you can make a copy of that, you're welcome to add it to that site.
I'm not adding it to,
And
I have
But
given,
you got a folder on it.
well, this is my work copy. I got notes written all over
Oh,
the back
okay,
of it.
this is your, okay.
That's my work copy.
So that could be sacrificed, just so you
Yeah.
can make another one.
Yeah, I've got scanned copies of it.
Okay.
But,
Wow, that's
but
a
what
very
got me
good piece.
going was this house says James Adkins, that house is still there, and an Adkins is living in
Does
it.
it still look like that?
Yes, yes.
It looks just
He
like
just,
that.
he just,
That is something.
yeah. There's 3 houses on there that are still there. One of them's just about fallen down, and there's this one,
And what year was this?
1866.
Oh.
Now, why was this done in 1866?
Seems like they resurveyed it, and I think it was,
1848.
yeah, it was resurveyed a few times. going
But
across.
Wycomico County was formed in 1867.
Okay, so it must have something to do with that. I wonder if Wycomico County has an archives, nothing.
No, the courthouse has nothing
You
like it.
chased us all.
Oh,
around.
I've chased all this down there, yeah.
There's a lot of chasing with us. And getting stuff straight and not having things that
I've chased on
Call
it
the
for years.
Transpeninsular Line, the Mason-Dixon line, there's, what to it, yeah. So, yeah, you were asking about the original surveyor's journal, that's in here, it's called Surveyor John Watson's journal.
Yeah.
So you can look at that if you want to, that has the complete journal, but that's the only notes that those surveyors left. Whatever else they had on paper, anything could have happened to it.
One of those 2 journals, and I don't know which one it was found in Canada, in a house. And they wanted $500 gold for it at the time. And I don't know who paid the $500 gold, but that's when they got it, so they could make a copy of it and stuff.
Interesting.
George, you talked about putting a marker down there. If you could get the Corps of Engineers interested, it would probably be more sensible to put it on some solid, Taylor solid land where it would go across. Because if you try to get it on James Island, that's gonna be out in the bay anyway.
Yeah, well, isn't,
And there's no public access
Yeah.
to that anyway.
well,
so that
with the
keep people
rebuilding
off.
of Poplar Island, didn't they create public access to
No.
it if you can go
No,
there for
that-
birding and things like that?
No, you have to be on a tour to
Right.
go over there. If you're, so most people from Taylor's Island would just be on a skiff or a pleasure boat, wanna go over there, you're not allowed to do,
No, you're not
you
allowed
wouldn't
to
be
do
allowed
that.
to do that.
No,
so.
you would have to go, actually
kinda
go
hurts.
onto the island. I don't know, maybe one on the island and one on the new James Island, you know, one on Taylor's Island, referring to the one that it is out there, you know, that some sort of
It
marker.
could be, but I think if you put it on Taylor's Island, it's more chance of it being seen.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe the one that you had.
Yeah, the one you,
Yeah, we'll donate one.
yeah, well,
Might be on your farm,
That might be a good.
they'll be
good-
walking
good
on your
thing.
farm.
yeah, that would be good to let people,
In your
something
name,
to
of
let
course.
people, that's a good idea, to let people know it's out there, but it would also be good to have some sort of marker, you know, to indicate approximately where it was, or maybe just the one on Taylor's Island would be enough, saying that, you know, on the rebuilt James Island, we're not sure of where the exact point was, because it was never determined, but we know it's on the
Closest point.
southern end of James Island due to the documents that were created to come to an agreement on where the middle point was. You know, we do have that it's on the southern end, but that's about it. No latitude or longitude or a map.
Nothing
or
there
anything.
but water.
Yeah, it's underwater. There was probably, if anything was there, it might have been a pile of stones or,
You'd have to come back to the Hooper's Neck Road, I think, and put the marker there with an arrow.
So George, what about the bricks by the marina? Was that debunked or whatever?
I'm not sure about that. That was, do you know Martin that lives next door to the marina?
Yeah,
Okay. When Martin bought his property, from Reynolds Carpenter,
this is the Slaughter Creek Marina. There was apparently a pile of bricks there or something.
well, Martin bought his property from, Reynolds Carpenter. And Reynolds Carpenter said, you know, Martin, the north end of your property